That's not a comic book. Now that's a comic book.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Comic Reviews. I'm Sid Part 2, and I have a reasonable stack of comics today. Nothing excessive, so we'll see how long this episode goes, but let's go ahead and get right started with the last thing I read, which is Lando number 4. Yeah, number 4. This is just too much fun. So now we have the everything's going wrong moment of the heist. Just briefly, I don't like the way the lightsaber is drawn. I don't know, it looks kind of weird to me. But basically the Sith artifacts seem to be mind controlling or something. The twins, the clones characters. So that's a problem, and one of them's getting ready to kill everybody. And by the end of the issue, spoilers, they've teamed up and are ready to kill everyone with red lightsabers. But the twist, the bounty hunter in the issue knows Lando, and they've had a thing, and I can totally hear Billy D. Williams being like, "Well, hey, been a long time, Shanta. How you doing, lady?" I can hear it in my head. That's part of the fun of this, is just everything's going wrong at once, and then things are working out. It's total seat of the pants kind of thing. If they ever make another Ocean's 11 movie, I guess it'd be Ocean's 14 by now. They should put Billy D. Williams in it. He'd be good. But so it's pretty much just the plot thickening and things going more and more wrong. I'm getting tired of these poster ads. Make it harder to flip through the damn comic book. But anyway, so yeah, it's just a developing story right now, and there's nothing really to comment on yet. The idea that the Jedi did a really good job of wiping the Sith out of existence for a while, and that the contents of this one room on Sidious's ship is filled with more Sith artifacts than people even thought still existed. That's interesting, but it goes to show that there's very little Sith left in the galaxy before the return of them with Sidious and everything. Otherwise, still a pretty good book, though. It's just building tension for this heist thing. I don't know how long this could possibly go on for, especially when you start as strongly as this has. That's certainly, it's not a problem, but it really makes me question how long this book can possibly keep on going, but I'm going to keep reading it. I think it's a lot of fun so far. But yeah, good stuff. Really clever bounty hunter girl, in that Jango Fett kind of way. Boba Fett, whatever. I don't care. Yeah. Cool stuff. Not a ton to say about it. It's just the story's developing, and it's still a lot of fun to read, so check it out. Martian Manhunter number 4. I finally am starting to enjoy this again. It's finally starting to all add up now, because before it felt really random and I didn't know what the hell was going on. Now I'm starting to get the idea that a lot of these random characters we've been seeing are different parts of Martian Manhunter's mind and body, I guess, that he split up and given their own memories and their own ideas, and he sent them all around the world to go operate independently. So when we saw him commit suicide in the second issue, that was a ploy so that he could try to keep himself away from his enemies and give him his backup plan time to get in motion. But that's not working out. The white Martians are becoming a major threat, and are going after the different elements of his psyche. So it is starting to pick up and develop, and there's a wider DCU thing in this book, which I think is interesting. Because, we had the Justice League, or part of the Justice League, I guess, show up in the second issue to fight Martian Manhunter. And then we have Aquaman show up in this issue to rescue one of his other personalities that has fallen in the ocean. It's okay. It's nothing. I'm happier with it, but I'm still kind of on the fence about it. Like I said, I'll wait till we're at some kind of status quo with this book, but for right now, I'm just kind of like, what is happening? It's really weird. It's a really weird idea. Not a ton to say about it. It's weird shit. Sensation Comics featuring Wonder Woman number 14. Again, we have a one story throughout the full issue, and I'm a little disappointed by that. I was really enjoying when it was 2 stories per issue, but oddly enough, the stuff we're getting in here is with Strife and Eris, who are 2 separate parts of the same entity. It's a weird one. It's funny because I think Azzarello really did make Strife a character, and it's weird to see someone else try to do something with her that's not at all the same thing. I will give that point. It is entirely its own thing. But there's some interesting stuff in here with Wonder Woman as a diplomat working with the UN who isn't aligned with the West or the East or whatever, that isn't aligned with any major powers. I do like that element behind it. Invisible Jet's in the issue. That's cool. But there's like this idea of a border skirmish over some land with oil deposits on it. And the gods are stepping in, and they're manipulating, and they're causing problems of their own and stuff. And there's this idea that the gods don't have any power to grant prayers, and that they can actually just end up making things worse. I don't know, it's just an okay single issue story. That's more of what I want in comics, and so you're obviously going to have times where that works, and times where it's just okay, and times where it doesn't work at all, or it's just really bad. This just works, it's just okay. There's some fun stuff here and there. There's a scene toward the end where Wonder Woman pulls like a Superman from back in the 40s when he not the 40s, the 30s, late 30s, when there's that old Superman comic where he kidnapped Stalin and Hitler and brought him to God, what did he bring him? Bring him to Geneva? Something like that. Superman kidnapped Stalin and Hitler and sat him down and lectured at him. And that she kind of pulls that here, which was funny. I'm sorry, I don't have a ton to say so far this week. A lot of the stuff is just okay. It's a thoroughly alright week. I didn't hate anything, though. I was slightly disappointed in this just because I was hoping for 2 stories again. But maybe they're going to full single issue stories, I don't know. But I'm not, like, disappointed by anything that I've read this... Or I'm not disappointed. I'm not, like, annoyed or disliking anything that I picked up this week. I've just got a lot of stuff that's... And not in a bad way. It's just, yeah, that was a story that I read. And the same goes for this. Wonder Woman number 44. I've been praising up the New 52 Wonder Woman, and it's a developing story and everything, and they're just advancing the plot, and there's a pretty good stinger. I'm of the opinion, though, that if you're going to do a stinger, you should probably... Spoilers, I'm going to show you the page. But if you're going to do a stinger, you should probably have it be its own page, because the problem is I'm reading this side of the page and it's all this setup for this oh shit moment that's about to happen. And then on this side of the page, there's 3 panels of setup at the top, and then the oh shit moment happens in a large page at the bottom. Or a large, 3/4 of a page at the bottom. And that's a problem. If you're gonna do a big shocking reveal, you should do it so that I flip the page and that's where the shocking reveal is. Oh, Libra Merho's doing We Are Robin. Interesting. So that was a bit disappointing, but it's still a pretty good moment where this Aegeus guy is not working with Strife, but some other god, and is going to attack and still trying to kill Wonder Woman. Some stuff with Donna Troy getting something more reminiscent of her classic outfit. Silver boots, black pants, black top. Ultimately not too, sexualized, which is good. She looks... there's an element of that, but besides the belly shirt, I could see most other superheroes wearing this. Maybe not the heels, but hey. And they're not, big stilettos. They're, proper flat heels. So I'm okay with that. Not sure where she's going, where Meredith Finch is going with Donna Troy. Interested to see what happens, though. I'm still interested. I'm still enjoying parts of this book, and I'm still finding some of it compelling. But so far, it's just okay. Like I said, I really want this Aegeus stuff to wrap up, and I want more stuff with the classic villains. Use Cersei. I think Cersei would be the obvious choice to go with, because she bridges that gap between, classic Wonder Woman villain and Greek myth. So I think she's a good bridge to get more of Wonder Woman's classic rogues gallery to start showing up again in the book. But otherwise, I'm still enjoying this. It is a little weird that we're, nearly 50 issues in, and not one of her classic rogues has showed up, not counting the Cheetah issue. That's probably my biggest problem with it. But otherwise, still a pretty good book. I still recommend picking up the New 52 Wonder Woman, even if you're able to get past the change of origin and all that stuff. So we're moving on to trade talk. We're moving on to trade talk quite quickly, and this week we have Zorro Year 1, The Trial of the Fox. And yes, it is Zorro Year 1 in more ways than one. Excuse me as I remove the dust jacket. And it's a pretty slick actual cover there. So this is actually based on a novel. I need to find... Wait, is it on the back here? No. Inspired and dedicated to the works of Zorro creator Johnston McCulley and visionary author Isabel Allende, legendary writer Matt Wagner brings the thrilling tale of Zorro to life as never before. No, that's not what I want. Basically, Elizabeth Allende wrote a novel called Zorro, and it's Zorro's origin story. And I have something different entirely in my head about Zorro's origin, but this is not bad on its own. So the idea is that Zorro is a half... what's the word that they use? There's a word the Spanish had for it. Anyway, the Spanish had a word for if you were born of an Indian and a Spanish person, and they had distinctions between which was the mother and which was the father and all that stuff. There's a very very strict hierarchy in Spanish society, and so Diego is half Native American and half Spanish. And so that's interesting. That's well developed. And the idea of this is that we're getting Diego from childhood to when he goes into California and really starts becoming Zorro and becomes the Diego de la Vega, the pomp, the socialite that we're familiar with in most versions. But throughout we're intercut with his activities as Zorro and how he's disrupting the people or the operations of the soldiers and the Spanish crown. Like the first 2 pages are excuse me. The first 2 pages are soldiers having a conversation about Zorro, or about the legend who would become Zorro, and and then we see, the flashback of what happened to the soldiers and what happens with Diego remembering a woman getting whipped by soldiers and his father telling him about how he must act. And then we get more stuff with the story that the soldier was telling in the beginning with what happened to him and his comrade on the road. And it all goes on and on and on. Bernardo and Diego go out on a spirit quest, and Diego's spirit guide is the fox, which is kind of cool. But yeah, just it kind of goes on, and we have a great last page of this opening issue with a guy showing the mark of Zorro on his hand there. But as the book goes on, we have Diego outclassing his father's capabilities, which makes him consider that he'll have to send him to Spain, and their town, or in their home, gets invaded by pirates, and they end up raping and killing Bernardo's mother and killing Zorro's mother. And so this prompts Alejandro to send Diego to Spain earlier than he probably would have otherwise, because it hurts him to see his son, because it reminds him so much of his mother. And then we get more intercut stuff, blah, blah, blah. And so Zorro's time in Spain is handled really, really well, and he's learning all these things, and he fights for a gypsy woman, and he's learning sword fighting, but he fights to save gypsy woman and tells this to his instructor. And here we get to a part that I really didn't care for in the story, which after he tells his instructor what he did for the gypsy woman, his instructor brings him to this secret society that has existed in Spain since the Inquisition to help hide the oppressed and help protect them, and they exist completely in secret. No one ever speaks of them. And I really didn't like that idea of Diego becoming a member of this hidden society, and that's where he gets the inspiration to really fight for the oppressed and become... I mean, it's not that that's the only place. He gets to be a part of the society because he helped fight for the oppressed already, and he's always wanted to. We clearly see from when he's a child, but... I just don't like that that's where he gets part of it from. I don't... It's too Batman Begins for me. And the run was coming out in 2008, and so the book came out probably a couple years earlier, so there's a very heavy influence of Batman Begins there. And that's just too much over the line for me. It works for Batman in a way I don't think it works for Zorro. And they really are very, very... how do I put this? They're very intentionally making it feel like Batman. And I like that. I mean, Batman's a character that borrowed from a lot of places and used that to evolve. And so I don't have a problem with the characters he borrowed from, if we're going to continue writing those, for them to borrow from him and keep going back and forth like that. That's fine. Things can feed into each other. But... The notion of making Zorro literally Mexican Batman is a little too far for me. Even the way they draw Zorro in this book several times, like this is a cover, but even the way they draw him makes him look kind of like Batman in a lot of ways. I thought this page was funny. This is the first time that they put a wanted poster up for Zorro, as we get the flashbacks to the, modern day stuff. And that poster underneath it, you can see it right there. There. It says Francisco Francella, who is the artist on the book. I thought that was really, really clever to do. So he put himself in there, which is pretty funny. But no, there's a lot of... It feels very much like a Nolan Batman or a Nolan Zorro movie. Because there is a lot of back and forth between time, and that part of it I don't mind. I just don't like the idea that he becomes a member of this secret society thing, and that part bothers me. Then there's this weird issue with the I don't know if I'd call it weird, but it does feel a little forced. Basically, Diego and Bernardo get word from Alejandro that, like, the situation in California is going to shit and blah, blah, blah. And so they get on the next boat out, and after a couple months at sea, the boat is attacked by pirates. And the pirates just, honestly, it's such a weird scene. The battle was fierce and short-lived. Most sailors are not professional fighters and have little or no skill when it comes to armed engagement. Within an hour, Diego and I were the only survivors of the San Sebastian. And so they killed numerous pirates, a feat mostly unappreciated by the pirates themselves. They killed numerous pirates, the only two survivors, and then the leader of the pirates, tells them that he's letting them free, and he puts them on a little escape boat, or little rowboat, and they row away. And I mean, they certainly could have died from that, and I don't have a problem with how they survived that side of the ordeal, but it is the most random thing, and it helps build into Diego showing back up in California a little bit later, but it's really awkward to me. I don't know, that scene just feels unnecessary because, let's see here. 1, 2, 3 pages and it's done. And then it has effects on the rest of the story, but it's weird that it's over so quickly. It almost feels like a producer was like, no, we need an action scene right here. So they put in pirates. I feel like I just feel like you could have done this more easily. Instead of pirates, it would have made more sense to have the ship go through a storm and get shipwrecked or something. And so then they would have had to board the rowboat and try to escape and survive on the sea in that way if you wanted to still keep the element of of Diego's eventual return to California being in rags as opposed to in proper clothes and with all his stuff and everything. Though there is one really weird, I suppose you only lose one thing, but you could have had him learn this literally anywhere else. The pirate king, the captain that lets Diego and Bernardo go, says, or Diego asks him, I have never saw someone wear a cloak into battle before. Aren't you worried about getting tangled in its length? And the captain says, haha, but you misunderstand its purpose. Enswathed in these folds, my body is hidden from my enemies' aim, either the tips of their blades or the sights of their guns. Yeah, it's just something I don't feel like you needed to have Diego get it from a pirate, or he could have gotten it from, one of the sailors. There's that great episode there's that great moment in the first episode of the Guy Williams show where he's fighting with one of the crewmen, and it's just something they did to pass time. And you could have had him learn it from that guy. That could have been useful. Like, you could have reenacted that, where Diego learns it from that guy before they get shipwrecked. I just don't feel like the pirates thing was necessary, because there's such a big part of the story in the beginning with how they kill off Bernardo's mother and Diego's mother, that it's weird that they just end up, you have the return of pirates, and they aren't necessary to the plot at all, because there are easier ways that you could have done what you needed to in the story and made it felt more realistic, because it's hard to believe that they just happen to get, a good pirate that lets them go. But anyway, so Diego and Bernardo are able to make landfall and survive on the prairie and through the desert as they return to California. And then when they go to the house, soldiers are guarding the hacienda of the De La Vega name, and they won't let him in, and they call him an Indian, and they tell him to get lost, and so they go back to the tribe of their mothers, and find out that Diego's grandmother has passed in the time that he's been gone to Spain, but she left him a map to gold, and it's hidden within this cave structure. So that's where they make, Zorro's cave and everything. And they're able to get Tornado, who looks perfect. Tornado is just a wild stallion, which is really cool. That only Zorro and Bernardo together are able to calm and thus be able to ride. Kind of goes on. But so then it's the final issue, or the second to last issue rather, where Diego returns to the house looking like he should, like they expect Diego to look, but even playing that up more, like freshly returned from Spain, and he's the classic rich pompous Diego that doesn't have the stomach for the heat and yada yada yada. And so there's a lot of great stuff with that, and he talks with his father, and his father's of course disappointed in him because Diego puts on an air that he, instead of coming home the second his father asked, or the second he received his father's letter, he went night clubbing and everything in Spain for a couple months more, and he'd been using the money his father was sending him for fencing lessons to, buy expensive carriages and everything. And so that's what hurts him the most. And there's actually a really good line there. I shouldn't have skipped over it. Oh, where did it go? So after his father leaves the room, as his father leaves the room, he says, "You will excuse me for the rest of the evening, Diego. I suddenly feel ill to my stomach." And that's, in regards to how disappointed he is in Diego. And Diego gets up and is like, "That was so much harder than I imagined." Lying to his father's face and pretending to be, this weakling, this coward to his father, really hurt him. And so it's, then it goes to his first night, not his first night as Zorro, but his first night as Zorro as, getting information as Diego and then going out as Zorro and stuff. And then we get our first full Zorro issue where it's nothing but Zorro doing stuff, and he goes and saves a priest and fights this sergeant that's corrupt and everything, and the sergeant has this really nasty cut right down the front of his face, or scar down the front of his face, and so Zorro carves right on the side of it to give him that mark forever right in front of everybody. And Zorro's able to save the prisoners that shouldn't be there, and the priest and everything. And he rides off into the full moon, chased by soldiers, just like Zorro's meant to do. And then we get some really cool covers. Some of them better than others. Some of them kind of looking like Alex Ross drawings. I don't like this one because that seriously looks like Batman in a Zorro costume to me. It's too white guyish. I have no problem with Zorro being played by a white man since he's from Spain, or he's Spanish, but you should still have a proper tan because he's lived in California so long. But it looks a little Alex Rossi there. And there's some cool stuff. It is just a really cool issue. And then there's some cool graphic novel, whatever, origin story. And then there's some sketches in the back that outline, what they're going for design-wise. And there is even a Zorro, our version, resembles two famous characters he inspired, Batman, the Shadow. So that's really what they're going for. And they mention that it's a cloak, not a cape, so that, you have the arms still part of it and everything. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed this. It does show a really good first half of Zorro's origin, and I got the second volume sitting over there. I'll pick that up too. That should be next week's video if time allows at work and everything. But I was really happy with this, and I was pretty impressed with it. But I figured I'd take the opportunity to just talk about what I would do with the Zorro origin, since I'm only half an hour in. That seems like I got plenty of time. Because there are things I like about this. I really like the idea of telling the origin in that Nolan style of Batman Begins, where we go past, future, relate thematically, stuff like that. I thought that was a pretty clever thing to do, and I was pretty happy with that. But it's not at all what I would do with Zorro. Just because, I enjoy a lot of the ideas, but ultimately I think it kind of misses an opportunity with the character that I don't see. It's weird because I think this has been done to death, but at the same time I feel like it could be done really well with Zorro and in a really unique way. So let me just talk about it. So most versions of Diego de la Vega... Oh shit, Danny, what the hell, man? He was attacking himself in the mirror. I was wondering what the hell the sound was. Shh, calm down. Alright, he's really excited right now, so we'll just leave him be. Yeah, that beard is black, buddy. Anyway, so, most versions of Diego de la Vega have him where he pretends to be this ignorant party socialite, this man of books that all his time is spent just reading books and everything. I would actually have that be him. I would have Diego de la Vega be completely ignorant. Because he has spent most of his life in Spain. And while I think this has the potential to piss people off, I think it could be really interesting if Diego is the one making the arguments for imperialism. It's like, oh, well, we've bettered their lives, we've educated the savages, we've made them better people, we've helped them learn skills, and we've introduced them to God. I'd have Diego be like the biggest advocate for imperialism while he's living in Spain. Have him be sent off to Spain at a very young age, where he doesn't, like, all he really remembers about living in California was playing in his house. Like, he never really went out that often in the fields of California or whatever. Never saw the pueblo or anything of Los Angeles really intensely. He was just a kid when it was going on, and so he doesn't have any of that in his head. So I'd have him probably be sent to Spain at like 5. And grow up there and learn all these things and have no real interest in sword fighting or any of that. I'd have him be the pomp that he's always pretending to be until he comes back to California. And he doesn't come back because of hearing of corruption or at his father's wish. He just decides that he's been in Spain a lot and he wants to go back home and be with his family. And then when he gets there, I want him to see all the horrible things that have gone on in this colony in the name of Spain, to see it all and think that it's some kind of corruption or that it's some kind of thing that's not supposed to have happened the way it is. And then have him be told, no, this is pretty normal. This is what it's always like. Always been like. No matter what Spanish colony you go to, this is what it'll be like. And the reason I'd have him do that is because I want him to be that voice of, to have that veil of ignorance lifted. I think there's something incredibly fascinating to have a character who would be the one making the imperialist argument simply out of ignorance of having only heard the imperialist ideals and not having actually seen it, not having confronted it. I think that could be really interesting, and have him decide at that moment that he has allowed himself to be led into ignorance, that he has allowed himself to be ignorant and to be offended by himself, to hate himself for doing that. And like so that's why I'd have him pick up the sword and learn to sword fight at an advanced age, but because of the determination he feels to fight for what's right, he is able to become one of the greatest fencers in the world. I would have Zorro become that symbol of revolution for the people, in the same way that V is, that since V borrows from Zorro and Alan Moore's V for Vendetta. I would definitely have Zorro become that symbol actively, because he, more out of anger not only at the crown and not only at the oppression, but because he was a part of it, and that offends him, and he feels that he must repent for that. I think that could be really fascinating. And so he'd pick up the sword and then become the symbol of revolution and his end goal would be to remove Spain from the Americas. And to ultimately fight any kind of oppression. The problem with this approach is it does reek of the white savior idea of the Dances with Wolves, the Avatar thing, the idea of the white man that comes in and teaches the savages and blah blah blah. So I think the way you get around that is you don't have him become engulfed in the culture of the people. You can do that certainly, but you don't have him become sympathetic to the people. You don't have him go native by becoming engulfed and ingrained in their culture and seeing it as normal, and then deciding that that's the right way to do things, blah blah blah. What you have him do is just the oppression, the very sight of the tyranny of Spain in that time period offends him, and you make it a personal thing that he cannot allow himself to be a part of that anymore, and that he cannot stand by and let that happen. So you make it a story of revolution in the true sense, as opposed to a story of understanding the plight of another. You made a story of him learning, not learning someone else's culture and seeing it as superior, but instead of becoming a member of that society, of deciding that the society that he was a part of, is fundamentally flawed and wrong, and that literally anything is a better alternative. And so that's what I would do with it. I think it could be incredibly fascinating. Really just 100% Zorro as a revolutionary is I mean, it's an attractive symbol. It's something that he's always been a part of, and that I honestly, I feel like no other character quite does as well. Because, I mean, Dark Knight Returns has elements of, Batman as a revolutionary, and V for Vendetta is clearly got a lot of revolutionary anarchistic elements to it. But I think Zorro, when told as a revolutionary, works incredibly well. And that's probably the stuff I enjoyed about Zorro Year One Trial of the Fox the most, is just seeing him fighting against the soldiers and doing the whole Robin Hood thing of stealing from the soldiers. Like, he steals their payroll and then gives it to the people and stuff. So yeah, I think the way you get around the whole white savior idea is you don't have him do it because he's fallen in love with their culture and decided to become a part of it. You can certainly have him be interested and have him take parts in their culture in certain ways. I really like the idea that, he goes out on a spirit quest kind of thing, or he just goes out walking in the desert and comes across a fox. That could be cool too, but you don't have him become the symbol of revolution or change his mind because he's introduced to this new culture. You have him do it because he's so vehemently opposed to the oppression that he's seeing. So anyway, that was this week's episode of Comic Reviews. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed my idea for a Zorro origin. And I thank you very much for watching. One last thing on the Zorro origin. I'd very much have him be a man who, like, all he has to do to be comfortable, to be rich, like, he has literally the most perfect life you could imagine in that time period. And all he has to do is literally nothing. To keep it. That's all he has to do to keep it is just sit by and nothing will affect it whatsoever. But he decides to abandon, or potentially abandon, all of that because he finds what is happening to be wrong. So you have that ignorance to understanding to action be his character arc in a Zorro origin film for me. But anyway, everyone, thank you very much for watching. Until next time, well, hold on. It's getting hard to talk, guys. Anyway, if you have suggestions for comics, single issues, or graphic novels or trades you'd like me to pick up, if there are comics coming out week to week, please leave them in the comments below. I will do my best to get a hold of it. And until next time, I am Sid Part 2, and I'll be reviewing things. Bye.